Abraxas is the mighty power of being itself, the irresistible stream of life which nothing withstandeth. Before him there is neither question nor doubt, for he is the reality which is before all thought. Carl Jung, The Seven Ceremonies to the Dead. Abby has finally been confirmed to be Abraxas, and this isn't necessarily the massive part of the revelation, but the fact Abraxas was, at one point, aligned with Threnodians. That, or that Abraxas is simply a Threnodian, and so Leviathan assumed him to be on the same side. In today's video, I'll go over what Abraxas is, and what this might mean for our dear friend Abby, Rover, and as well what this could mean for the future of Solaris itself.
Abraxas! Why hast thou betrayed us?
Let us first start with the Gnostics, where Abraxas first originated. Abraxas is totality. The name in Greek adds up to a numerical total of 365, the number of days in a solar year, but also meaning dominion over the heavens, a cosmic completeness and totality. Abraxas is not a demon nor a god, but is a principle, an ultimate ruler of the 365 heavens, and yes, that many. Abraxas, however, is not actually the pinnacle in their hierarchy, but is instead the pinnacle over the material world. Above Abraxas are Eons and the Father, but that is aside the current point. They are an intermediate deity that governs the physical and psychic planes, much like how Rover is an arbiter, and how Rover can walk freely between the Somme Noir and the psychic plane, and Solaris, the material plane. This also makes sense, as above Abby there would still be the Lament itself, and if mankind has all of its hopes into one person, that being Rover, then perhaps above the Lament is someone who has all of the world's despair, not loath as she is obsession, but true, total lack of will to live, the utterance of true despair as Leviathan sought to bring onto the world with the Dark Tide, of which also confirmed to be a part of the Lament. Continuing on with Gnostic belief, Abraxas was often some form of hybrid or a paradox of sorts, typically with 4 or 5 parts, and how interesting. Rover starts with one, his own, and now with Abby's help he's going to collect 5 other parts. Typically the form was of the following: a rooster's head, which represents vigilance, the rising sun, and some kind of awakening or illumination. The human torso, this means reason and consciousness, but of the divine. The serpent legs, which is early power in eternity and hidden wisdom. Then either some kind of a whip or a shield, naturally for authority and or protection. Abraxas here is both good and evil, light and dark, life and death, creator and destroyer. Most importantly are the theological significances in Gnosticism. This is where we learn that Abraxas is a link between God and mankind, someone who controls the cyclical order of existence, those being time, seasons, and fate. He unites opposites not as reconciliation nor as alignment, but as a totality. As we can see here, our dear little Abby here holds a lot in common with the symbol from Gnostic Christianity. Abby can absorb different frequencies within him, including ones that are opposites. Not only this, if we combine it with the idea that Abby is a Threnodian, then suddenly Abby becomes not an agent of mankind's destruction, but the one who causes both its suffering and salvation, as an Abby was born from mankind's cyclical nature, and the cyclical natures of the universe. The fears of falling back into your old ways, but also the underlying fear that your hopes will be dashed, the underlying hope that the despair you feel will be short. These contradiction emotions, yet held at the same time, are what likely made Abby born. However, we'll get into more detail later in the video. For now, let's speak about Jung's interpretation of Abraxas as, of course, he saw it differently. Abraxas is the god whom it is difficult to know. His power is the greatest, for man sees him not. Every god, every devil, is a thing of Abraxas. He is the manifest opposites of god and devil, and the bright light of the day and the darkness of the night are united in him. The 7 Ceremonies to the Dead. Abraxas is the supreme god, higher than the Christian god or the devil. He is the union and transcendence of all opposites. Remember, this is a symbol, not a genuine part of Christianity that he believed, but an aspect of the mind. Abraxas represents a totality of mental energy, uniting light and shadow together, uniting your consciousness and unconsciousness. It is the life force that generates both creation and destruction, and is a symbol of the self, the complete integrated psyche. The ultimate goal of psychological and spiritual development is individuation, a process of becoming whole by integrating all aspects of your psyche. Abraxas, therefore, is not good or evil, but is both and neither. It depends on how you view him at this point. So from a Threnodian's perspective, Abby is their aid, perhaps even an ally in the unconsciousness of mankind. But to Rover, he is also an aid, an ally helping him save mankind. Both can be true at once, or true at different points in time. For Jung, Abraxas can mean being two things and therefore being both, or in fact, being neither. Abraxas to Jung does not offer salvation, but instead offers a reconciliation and realization of whom you are. In this, you can rise above fate and determine freely from outside voices and inner voices about what it is you want your fate to be, the totality of having true, free will. Now, it makes sense why Cristoforo and the others want Rover and Abby so much. Cristoforo truly is Rover, but that's for a different video. Today, we're focusing on Abraxas. With these understandings, we can draw some conclusions. The conclusions being that Abby was likely born from the fact we can hold two contradicting emotions at once and even fear both. If we look at the timeline of Wuthering Waves for a moment, we will come to the realization of a few things. Rover was made in response to the lament. The first resonator aided in restoring reality. Tethys was made for the material world, and the Somme Noir for the psychic world. But more importantly, we know nothing about any Sentinels and Threnodians born from this time. Perhaps it is that the Arbiter was the first Sentinel, and that Abraxas was the first Threnodian. All of mankind's hopes were put into Rover. What if Rover and Abby acted as the psychological blueprint for the lament to create more Threnodians, and for mankind to create more Sentinels? Solaris is in a constant state of fighting itself. The lament is not pure evil, in fact, it is all of mankind. Abraxas may be one of two entities, either a sort of head of the Threnodians, much like how Rover is the head of Sentinels, or a mediator between Threnodians and something else, meaning that Abby may not be the highest tier of these creatures, just like how there is something out there creating Sentinels and creating civilizations that mankind is supposed to follow, and this person, evidently, is not the Arbiter. But these are ideas and theories for another video. For now, all we can say for certain is that Abraxas is something of opposites and is bonded with Rover for a reason. That Rover and Abby being in a symbiotic relationship perhaps makes the two of them Abraxas. Rover the human and Abby the tacit discord. Abby's nature is that of constantly consuming frequencies any and all, but more importantly, appears to react negatively to some, much like how a human would to food. The revelation of Abby truly being Abraxas has given us far more questions than answers. All we can do is wait and see how Kuro Games applies these symbols to the game, and with Lahai Roy being mentioned, a biblical connection, perhaps we may see something very soon, and perhaps this will be our next location in 3.0. But what do you all view of this, with these symbols present? What is your interpretation of what Abraxas means in Wuthering Waves? Do you think Abby was the head Threnodian that Rover absorbed at some point, or perhaps that Abby is just the Threnodian of Rover? Perhaps he is the Threnodian of the Hay civilization, or perhaps he is both Threnodian and Sentinel. Whatever the case, let me know your own thoughts and interpretations down below. And in the meantime, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out. And a special thanks to channel supporters, Black Shore's Guardian, Ice Dragon, Wandering Rovers, Takoyaki Lover, Istalor, and donators, Icy Sincere 13, Ozzy, and Frosty Frog OG.